We now know how brain freeze works.
And we know how to stop it.
I'm Summer Alexander from Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's talk about that.
Good mythical morning.
Today's episode is brought to you by Catulas.com. The guys with the goods. Goods including the Grill Sergeant apron. This is an apron that you can put pretty much anything in that you could possibly need while grilling. And it's also camouflage so you could disappear in the woods and no one would know that you were cooking in the woods.
Or if you were grilling and you did something wrong and you needed to flee to the woods,
You could escape.
you would be ready immediately. You wouldn't have to change clothes or anything. Thanks for joining us today. Good mythical morning. Now, we've all done it. We've all been there. Hey, let's go get some ice cream. Let's go to the old ice cream parlor. So then you go to the ice cream parlor and you get the little samples.
Do you really call it the ice cream parlor?
No. And you get the samples and everything's good. Everything's fine. You finally make your choice and you get the big bucket or cone of your choice. Boom. And you just start tearing into it.
You get buckets of ice cream?
And yes, or cones. And about a minute into it,
Confused.
bam, you're just hit with the pain, the brain freeze.
And then everything stops. It's like the whole world stops. Your conversation stops. You're like, and you can see it on somebody's face. And wait. And then it passes.
So you're telling me when you've experienced brain freezes, you hold out a finger and you tell people to wait? Just wait for it.
I'm always in an engaging conversation with somebody. We're about to change the world. And brain freeze stops it. And I'm like,
wait for a second.
I usually don't make that much noise.
It is great if you're the one, you're like halfway through a monologue or a great story, and you're like eating your ice cream, and then you're the one hit with the brain freeze, and then you'll never guess what happened. Wait for it.
You can talk through it, though, and it sounds like you're getting really intense.
Or constipated.
Then I grabbed it by the neck.
Usually you use it to your advantage.
I'm the macho man all of a sudden. Then I grabbed it by the neck. It's more like this.
That's a pretty good idea. But you've got news. You've got news on the subject.
Well, first of all, I almost can't talk anymore. Second of all, our good friend Greg, college roommate, told us that in order to stop brain freeze, when you get it, you should put your hand on the back of your neck.
Yeah, he was the one that told us that.
And then I've had other people tell me that you should do this. You should just choke yourself.
Okay.
And that somehow...
I don't understand that one.
And I'm going to tell you, research has been done. First of all, it's 2012, and it took us till 2012 to figure out what causes brain freeze. It took scientists until 2012.
Us personally?
No, scientists.
Okay.
I'm just going to relay what the scientists have figured out.
We haven't personally been researching brain freeze for the past 10 years.
Well, I have. I just haven't told you about it. Anyway, a team of researchers they performed a trial, clinical trial, essentially. They got 13 people, healthy people, and they got them to sip ice water through a straw. The straw was in contact with the roof of their mouth.
So you can get a brain freeze from Slurpees and slushies, but ice water?
Anything cold. Anything cold.
I don't know if I've ever gotten a brain freeze from ice water.
Well, but it was coming because you usually don't put it right on the in contact with the roof of your mouth. That's what happens with ice cream and stuff. It's got bulk and it kind of gets on the roof of your mouth, and that begins the process. Okay. So they were trying to recreate that, and they didn't want to waste the money on ice cream. And this is research.
So they put a straw on the roof of their mouth, which is very dangerous. If you hit someone on the back of the head when they're drinking with a straw, you could kill them instantly.
That wasn't part of the experiment. So it was very simple. They said, when you begin to experience brain freeze, the pain associated with brain freeze, raise your hand, and then when it subsides, bring your hand down.
And do this with your face. And if you want to, you don't have to, but you can if you feel like you need to.
They actually took ultrasound images of the people's noggins while this was happening so they could figure out what was happening. This is what causes brain freeze. They discovered that right before people began to complain of the pain, that there was a sudden increase in blood flow in the anterior cerebral artery, which is an artery that is in between your eyes, but behind your eyes in the middle of your brain. So, I mean, somewhere in there.
In the middle of your head, kind of.
And it takes blood to the brain. Then there would be a sudden increase of blood flow, which led to a sudden increase in pressure in the brain as this blood begins to fill the brain.
Why is blood filling the brain again?
Because, well, I'm going to tell you that in a second. Because the artery sends more blood to the brain.
Oh, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Artery sends blood there because brain needs blood, period.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you why it needs blood in a second. Just listen.
Oh, okay.
There's an increased flow of blood through this artery, which increases the pressure in the brain, which causes pain. Then, as the pressure increases in the brain, the brain says, hold on, getting too much blood. And then it restricts that artery or constricts that artery, and then the pain goes away, and the people put their heads down. So that's what's happening. Now, this is what the guy at Harvard said. He said, the brain is one of the relatively important organs in the body. That's how this statement starts. First of all,
I'm tracking with him so far.
I didn't go to Harvard. I know that. And it needs to be working all the time. I also know that. But he said it's fairly sensitive to temperature, so vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels, might be moving warm blood inside tissue to make sure the brain stays warm. So in other words, your brain literally begins to sense that I'm about to freeze. I need blood to warm up. That's when all of a sudden the blood flow increases. It's like turning the hose on a little bit and increases the pressure. Then it says, whoa, too much pressure. It constricts the artery, and then the pain goes away. So
I find it interesting that all along we've called it brain freeze, and we were right. You know, we had the collective experience of humans, the sensation that my brain is freezing, so let's call it brain freeze, has been true. That's
Yes.
what we're finding. So I'm very validated as part of the collective humanity of ice cream slushy / ice water eaters.
But you didn't come up with it. You just agreed with it. Well, I guess you should feel good about it.
But it's been proven. The name sticks. Brain freeze sticks because the brain is afraid of being frozen and it asks for more blood to be sent up to it to warm it up.
My parents called it ice cream headache.
Well, that's their loss. I mean, we're going with brain freeze. So that's what would happen, right? But then the brain would start to get wishy-washy and say, well, maybe I would rather freeze than be pressurized. So let's stop.
Well, the brain's constantly figuring these things out. You don't even have to think about this. That's the good thing about it. It just happens.
Uh-huh.
But this leads me to believe a couple of things. First of all, I always thought that maybe it has something to do with ice cream or slushy, whatever, going down your throat.
Right, that's why Greg said put your hand back here.
And then like the jugular is getting cold and it's sending blood to your brain, and that creates cold brain freeze. That's not what happens. So technically, there's nothing you can do. You can't put a scarf on and eat ice cream and you won't get brain freeze. You can't do this. You can't do your hand. None of that has an effect because you're not going to be able to change the temperature of that area of your head by putting your hands on your face. That's just not a way to do it.
I think you could put your hands on your brain area and it would probably work.
If you wear like a toboggan while you're eating ice cream?
Yeah.
They didn't suggest that. But this
doesn't work. I always thought that this worked. Have you ever tried it? Has someone told you to do that? I thought that it helped. Maybe it was just a distraction.
The fact is that it's going to end after it begins. And if you have your hand on the back of your head, when it ends, there's a correlation for you. That's not actually what's happening.
Humans also like to take credit for things they can't take credit for.
But here's
like stopping brain freeze.
Here's the kicker. It is all in the roof of your mouth. So this leads me to something. I believe that it's all about creating like a barrier. Like we could create a product called the brain freeze stopper. We got to come up with a better name than that. And it's like a mouth guard that you put into your mouth.
Brain freeze retainer.
And you put it in your mouth while you're eating ice cream and no brain freeze. It's like an insulated thing that you put in the roof of your mouth while you're eating. We got to do this.
I'm in 80-20 in terms of profits. But I think what we could do is we could set up a hut outside of popular ice cream parlors, and people might think that we're protesting ice cream. No, we're not protesting ice cream. We're just trying to bring an end to brain freeze. So buy one of these tablets. Let's not make it disposable. Like a tablet thing.
A tablet? It's like a mouth guard.
Like a mouth guard, like a retainer. Yeah, not a tablet. But let's not call it a tablet.
Is like something like you would take like a pill.
So we'd sell them before you go in to get your ice cream. And then on the way back, they give it to us and we wash it and we can recycle them. I'm still thinking about the environment and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Nobody wants to use a already
It shouldn't be disposable, though.
brain freeze guard. No, you take it and you use it. It's like a cup.
And we could have T-shirts
It's
that
like
say,
a cup that you use in baseball.
only we can prevent brain freeze.
You don't share them, and they're not disposable. You just wash it.
You like my T-shirt idea? Only we can prevent brain freeze, as opposed to forest fires.
We need to trademark that. But what are we going to call it? Brain freeze stopper? That doesn't make any sense. Brain freeze guard. Freeze guard. Brain freeze guard.
Help us by leaving a suggestion in the comments what our product, not yours. You can't take credit for this, but you can help us with the name, and you can also design a T-shirt for us to help starting to market this. Let's end this episode. 7th grade English teacher shout out.
This is actually Mary Jo McClam, who we talked about her husband in a recent episode, who helped us, or actually did absolutely no help to us in our
Well, let's
car
just give a
situation.
shout out. We'd like to give a shout out to Miss McClam, Mary Jo McClam. Thank you so much for teaching us English and math in 7th and 8th grade. You taught me how to diagram sentences. Shout out.
And diagramming sentences has been so useful to me in my everyday life, because when someone speaks to me, what I do is I take their sentence and I diagram it in my mind.
Shout out.
And that makes a difference to me.
Shout out.
And the people in my life.
Shout out. See you tomorrow.